I get asked all the time, what does your Shotmarker target look like? How did you build it? How does it work? Well, the truth is I actually have several Shotmarker targets, and I've actually built more than that, so it's kind of been an evolution for me. This is my current target. It measures 40 inches left to right and 40 inches up and down. Now, that just barely lets me house in a 1,000 yard F-class center, which is exactly what I want. Now, I'm fairly confident in my abilities that I can hit this target at 1,000 yards without causing damage to my unit. That being said, in the almost 3 years now that I've been using one, I have shot this sensor one time. And that was because somebody else at the range had a Shotmarker on the same channel, and it was when I was first learning that channels you can combine targets on channels, and I was using the wrong information to move my reticle. Since that time, I, knock on wood, have not blown out anything else on my target. I have, however, come close. I mean, honestly, there's a few bullet holes, you know, kind of straggled around. You know, stuff happens, but look, I'm going to show you in a minute how I protect the actual sensor hub, which is the expensive part. The sensors are 40 bucks, and I know that's not, you know, pocket cash, but I'm willing to take that chance for the portability of a smaller target. Now, my first target that I built was 48 inches, and the 8 inches doesn't seem like a lot, but from a transport standpoint, it was a lot heavier and a lot bulkier. So going to the 40-inch target has really been great for me. I obviously shoot, you know, F open, so I have a little more confidence in where the bullet's going. If I was shooting something like TR or sling, I would probably build a full 6-foot target just to maximize the protection of all of my sensors. One other thing to consider when building a target frame is that the actual dimensions, so the 40 inches, the larger the frame, the more accurate your Shotmarker will be. Now, we're talking, you know, like, I honestly don't remember what Adam says, but I think he says up to 36 inches sensor-wise, you are at, you know, let's call it, I don't know, it's like 2 millimeters or something. And then if you go to up to 6 feet between sensors, you get an improvement over that, or maybe it's backwards from that. I can't remember. It's on his website. But the point being, if you build a larger frame and you're willing to transport a larger frame, you will get just slightly better accuracy out of it. That also applies to, you know, targets that are being used for matches, which is why you really don't ever see, for any number of reasons, a smaller target being used at matches. Just about any match I shoot at, other than my home range, is going to use a 6-foot target because they don't know who's shooting on it. Our targets at the club are 3 feet wide and 6 feet tall, so we still feel like we get really great accuracy out of them, but it's a good trade-off for us. One other thing you'll notice is I've got hinges, and that allows me to fold up my target and transport it in a vehicle other than my truck if needed. Now, I've had people borrow my frames before, and this allows them to do that. It also just makes it easier to carry. And then you see how I just have Corex on the back here, and I'll explain this hole in a minute, but I just have Corex on the back. You can see that, you know, it's been shot all over the place for any number of reasons. And I use this target anywhere from 300 yards out to 1,000 yards. But by having the Corex split down the middle, I can just take a razor blade or knife to my target. Visually, it doesn't impede it, but it just lets me fold it up nicely and replace it as needed. Now, this center section, this Corex, I've been shooting on the same Corex for, well, almost 3 years. I've actually been recycling it every time I build a new frame. And, well, 2.5 years, something like that. Anyway, I used to have a whole little system built in over here that would hold a piece of cardboard behind the paper. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference anymore. It's just a waste of time and effort, so I don't use any kind of cardboard backer behind this center. When it comes time to replace this Corex, which probably is pretty soon, or Coreplast, it goes by a lot of different names, but when I go to replace it, I'll just leave this solid now because I really don't care what happens. It isn't as important as when I first started out. What is important is that your dimensions are square to each other. So if you're not confident in your ability to measure and cut wood that comes out square, don't build one of these. Have a friend help you or something. and then you need to follow Adam's dimensions in terms of how you measure and input into the Shotmarker. But that's a different issue. You know, I try to keep this relatively light. I can carry it with one hand if needed, and really that's all there is to it. Now, when this is hanging, it utilizes what is basically just a metal hook up at the top here, and it's big enough. If I turn this sideways, you can kind of see here that the hooks themselves are big enough to hang over even a 2x4, just barely. I've gone through different hooks. These aren't the best hooks. I've just been lazy about replacing them with something better, but they do work for all the clubs that I shoot at, which is all that really matters to me. Here is the other thing that I've done. The sensor hub. So when you're looking at your Shotmarker, you've got your sensor hub, okay? And this is what all the 4 sensors plug into, and then you have your antenna and all that fun stuff. This is the most expensive piece of your Shotmarker. To replace this alone is $500. Everything else on this system is pretty cheap. I think it's $100 for an access point, $40 for the sensors, cables, or, you know, whatever. This is where the money's at. So you want to protect this, which means keeping it out of the way of stupidity or accidents or stupid accidents. So what I've done with mine, because as confident as I am, I know that things still happen, and well, let's face it, I don't want to replace a $500 unit if I don't have to. So you'll notice I have this piece of Coroplast here, and it's just Velcroed down, and I have it so that it rotates. Now let me move this, and I'll show you. So my sensor hub hangs on this and then can go down below the target, well out of any range of being accidentally shot. And then I have a piece of Velcro here so I can use an extended antenna if I want to and stick it up there. So this works great for me because it's going to have to be a really, really bad day for me to hit my my sensor hub all the way down here. I mean, that's a good, you know, 3.5 feet off of center, down in the corner. And at a lot of ranges, this is actually just below grade, which is what I try to do so that my antenna sticks up above grade, but this is actually protected from even being shot at 2 of the 3 ranges that I shoot at. So that's how I protect it. It works very well for me. This stays out of the way and just, like I said, Velcros up nicely. Now, one other feature that I have on here is, let me open this up and show you, is on the back side. Oops, sorry. On the back side here, I do have a little bolt lock so that, well, I just bumped it, but it locks into place. And that just, more than anything, just helps hold it together a little bit when it's hanging at the bottom. So this is at the bottom. My hangers are up there at the top. So this is my 300 to 1,000 yard target. Okay. And I also have a simple 1,000 yard target, or 100 yard target rather. So this is my 100 yard target. And what it does is it's the same size. My club has a very specific 100 yard hanger that you must use, and it's a lot different than like a standard target carrier. It's just a 2x3 foot piece of wood on a 2x2 post. So it's a little awkward to use my giant frame that I just showed you. So I actually have a secondary frame that fits perfectly. It just has a hanging piece of Velcro that lets me put my sensor hub again down out of range, and then I can move the antenna up. At 100 yards, I'm never going to risk hitting this thing, but I still like to get it out of the way. And then obviously it's still got everything here. Now, you'll notice this is a rectangle, and that's okay. It just has to be square. So these just have to be square to each other on both sides and then side to side. So it can be any rectangle. It doesn't have to be a square rectangle. So that's important to know. This is just cut out to save weight. And then on the back, These are just simple pieces of wood that I put spacers underneath so that they just act as hangers on top of them. It's kind of like it's like 1/4-inch plywood that they use, so it just hangs right on that 1/4-inch plywood. I don't use this one as often as I used to, but it still works great when I do need it. I just have my little, at my 100-yard, I just got a little piece of tape there to show the wind and stuff. But that's how I build my frames. Look, I'm not a master woodworker by any means. I can cut wood, I can put it together. I do an okay job with it, and it works for me. I'm sure there are guys out there who make just absolutely gorgeous target hangers. That's fine. There's some that are probably worse than this, and they work just fine. So this is just sort of meant to give you guys an idea of what can be done, how simple it needs to be in order to be effective. So hope that helps, and we'll talk to you later.